So she was like, are you gonna make me listen to that the whole time? And I said, well, do you want to? And she said, no. I said, well, it was a nicer way to say that. And she said, you don't tell me. And I was like,
Are you okay?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm just telling him what happened.
I'm so sorry.
And so it's all right.
If there's anything I can do to help you.
You were sitting near us?
I was.
Yeah, I was just telling him.
I was there and I heard it was unreprehensible. The woman got in your face and gave you the middle finger.
Yeah.
And was doing things that were completely kidding.
She was. She started
I'm
screaming.
sorry. I'm embarrassed. I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
That's why I'm asking if you're okay.
Yes, no, I appreciate it.
I wouldn't be okay.
I mean, I don't know what she's claiming. She's gonna press charges saying that I hit her. I'm like, I did not hit you.
I mean, you want to continue?
I love you. Thank you.
Any families traveling with car seats and strollers are welcome aboard at this time. Along with Zone 3, are now welcome aboard.
This is a job, but it's also a place where we share our life with everybody. So I am always thankful for the fans. Even when they're hard on me, I'm thankful because at the end of the day, y'all may not know the whole story, and you may be really hard on me until you know. But isn't that how family is sometimes? You know what I mean?
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We've received a fascinating, almost paradoxical stack of sources detailing a highly public incident involving reality television star Porsha Williams.
Right.
It happened on a recent commercial flight. And what looks on the surface like just another celebrity feud is, I mean, when you really dig in, it's actually a perfect high-speed case study.
It's a case study in how federal law operates within the confines of a modern airliner. It's really something.
It truly is. So for you, our learner, our goal today is to use this whole incident as a portal.
Exactly. We want to skip the celebrity gossip. That's just the distraction,
Yeah, that's the noise.
And instead, really understand the serious procedural journey. We're going to dissect how an alleged mid-air conflict immediately triggers the machinery of the FBI.
And the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And the U.S. Attorney's Office, yeah.
Absolutely. Our mission is to follow the entire thread. We're going to start with the flashpoint, the moment the cabin crew gets involved.
The intervention.
Yeah. And then trace it all the way through the intense, required federal review, and finally, try to figure out what the ultimate legal clearance actually means.
In practical terms, yeah.
In practical terms, all while acknowledging the enormous spotlight on her because of her, let's say, complicated public life right now.
That context is non-negotiable. You can't separate them because in these high-profile cases, the legal outcome is really only half the story.
It really is. So let's set the scene. The initial snapshot. The alleged incident happened in the rarefied atmosphere of the first-class section. A Delta Airlines flight, a standard service, but the passenger list was anything but. It was flying from Las Vegas back to Atlanta.
And the timing is key here.
The timing is everything. It was right after the massive fan convention, BravoCon 2025.
So you have a plane full of people who are either reality stars or fans of reality stars.
Pressure cooker.
A total pressure cooker. And the initial reports were dramatic. They were all over the place. But the most important detail isn't the drama. It's the official resolution. This story moved so fast from an alleged altercation in the air to an official binding legal determination.
Which was?
That Williams was cleared of any wrongdoing by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And that speed is what I want to focus on.
Yeah.
It immediately raises the biggest procedural question for me. Why? Why does a dispute, maybe over an armrest or noise in first class, immediately involve federal agents?
Yes.
And not just, airport security or the Atlanta PD when they land.
That's the absolute core of this whole deep dive. It's the question. The moment two customers are addressed or, and this is the crucial word, intervened upon by crew aboard a commercial flight.
Ah, so the intervention is the trigger.
That is the trigger. Especially in a situation that could be an altercation, the incident immediately falls under federal jurisdiction.
Why, though? What's the legal basis for that?
It's due to the nature of the national airspace system and the whole concept of interstate commerce. When that cabin door seals shut, you are no longer under Georgia law or Nevada law. You are operating in a federal legal bubble.
A federal bubble. I like that. So if the flight crew decides a situation is disruptive enough to step in, they are essentially flipping a switch.
That's a perfect way to put it. They flip a switch that bypasses local police jurisdiction entirely.
Wow.
Yeah. We're talking about potential violations of very specific federal statutes. The big one is 49 U.S.C. Section 46504.
And what does that cover?
It deals with interference with flight crew members and attendants. And that statute is written to be extraordinarily broad.
For safety reasons, I assume.
Exactly, because the safety stakes are so high. An incident, even one that's just purely verbal, that distracts a flight attendant from their primary safety duties.
Which include a lot more than just serving drinks.
Oh, absolutely. Everything from routine service checks to, a full-blown emergency evacuation. Anything that distracts them can be considered interference.
This is a really low bar for what constitutes interference.
It can be, and that's why the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office are required to investigate. It's not optional for them. It automatically elevates the severity because the physical environment, thousands of feet in the air, demands zero tolerance for any kind of disruption.
That distinction is just monumental. It explains everything. It explains why the FBI Atlanta office was involved literally hours after the plane landed.
It's not a choice they make.
It's a mandatory procedure.
It's a mandatory procedure to protect the integrity of the entire national airspace system.
So it's bigger than Porsche. It's bigger than the other passenger.
Precisely. It's a mechanism that's designed to ensure that the safety standards of the entire air travel system are upheld, regardless of how, maybe trivial the initial dispute might seem on the ground.
Okay, that sets the legal framework perfectly. Now let's move into Section 2, the anatomy of an alleged incident. We need to detail the chronology, starting with that initial conflict and the essential role the cabin crew played.
Okay, so the sources confirm the incident allegedly involved Porsha Williams and at least one other person.
They were both up in the first class section.
Correct. And the source material is unequivocal on this next point. Delta cabin crew had to intervene. They had to physically separate the parties.
And as we just established, that intervention is the procedural gunshot that started the federal race.
It's the starting gun, yeah.
What's fascinating to me, though, is that despite this necessary intervention, the operational stability of the flight was maintained.
Yes, and that's a critical operational detail. You can bet that factored heavily into the final legal determination.
How so?
Well, the sources say the flight continued on to Atlanta and landed without issue.
Right.
That means the crew successfully de-escalated the situation enough to ensure there was no ongoing threat to safety or operations for the rest of the journey. But the fact that they had to intervene at all meant law enforcement was already waiting.
So let's talk about that immediate law enforcement response. The moment that plane taxied to the gate at ATL, who was there and what was their job?
Law enforcement met the flight right upon arrival. And what's just so fascinating here is the speed of the federal engagement.
It wasn't just airport police with a clipboard.
No. It was the FBI Atlanta office that was immediately aware of the alleged incident on November 16th. Immediately. They told the press that they were actively, quote, looking to see whether any federal charges may or may not apply.
That's not a passive review.
Not at all. It's an immediate, mandated investigative stance.
So wait, let's really drill down on what the FBI's role is in those first few hours. They don't just show up and ask, so what happened?
No.
Do they immediately start taking witness statements right there in the jet bridge? Are they looking for camera footage?
They absolutely start the clock on a full investigation. The FBI is essentially acting as the federal police force in this context. Their immediate mandate is preservation of evidence.
Okay.
And interviewing the key parties. So that's Williams, the accuser, and critically, the Delta cabin crew.
The crew's testimony must be paramount.
It's everything. Because they are the federal agents' eyes and ears on the ground or, in the air.
They're the neutral party.
They're the neutral trained party. The FBI needs to determine if the elements of a federal crime, like assault or interference, are present. Did anyone fear for their safety? Was there any physical contact? Was the crew's ability to perform their duties impaired?
So they're building a case file from minute one.
They are establishing the facts that the U.S. Attorney's Office will later use to decide whether or not to prosecute.
That investigative rigor gives the defense side very little time to prepare.
None at all.
Which is why the defense narrative, championed by her attorney Joe Habacki, was so aggressive and so swift.
It had to be.
What was the core strategy of Habacki's defense?
The strategy was, it was twofold. First, reframe Porsha as the victim, and second, emphasize the lack of a physical act.
Let's start with the reframing.
Okay, so Habacki stated immediately that Williams was allegedly verbally assaulted by an irate and unhinged passenger without provocation.
Wow, irate and unhinged. Strong words.
Very strong. And it completely controls the public narrative from the get-go. It paints Williams as the harassed celebrity who was forced to defend herself.
That reframing is such a powerful legal and PR tool. It shifts the entire focus from what did Porsha do to what did this other passenger do to Porsha?
Exactly. And Habaki didn't stop there. He then introduced critical doubt about the accuser's credibility.
How?
He claimed the other passenger, quote, proceeded to make false allegations that were in direct conflict with observations from several eyewitnesses.
Ah, the eyewitnesses.
That detail about conflicting eyewitnesses is procedurally vital. It's huge.
Why?
Because it provides the FBI with competing testimony right off the bat. It makes it incredibly difficult for a prosecutor to establish intent or action beyond a reasonable doubt.
Which is the standard they need for federal prosecution.
But it's the only standard that matters. So if the FBI interviews, say, 6 people in first class, and 3 say Porsha yelled first, and the other 3 say the other passenger started it?
Lack of clarity strongly benefits the defense.
Precisely. It creates reasonable doubt right out of the gate. And Habaki was clever enough to explicitly connect his client's situation back to the mandatory nature of the federal inquiry.
What did he say?
He stated clearly, quote, as with any incident occurring aboard an aircraft, federal authorities are required to conduct an investigation involving all parties to determine what, if any, offenses occurred.
He's essentially saying, we understand the procedure, we welcome the procedure, because the procedure is going to prove our side of the story.
Yes. That's a very, very confident move.
It is.
It's an assertion of confidence that allowed them to control the narrative early. It shows a really sophisticated understanding that, just being investigated is not an admission of guilt.
It's just protocol.
It's just mandatory protocol when the plane lands.
Okay, let's transition now to Section 3. The legal clearance and the demand for accountability. This is the payoff.
It is.
And it arrived incredibly fast for an FBI-involved case. I mean, usually this stuff takes months, sometimes years to clear an investigation.
It can, yeah.
But this determination was almost instantaneous.
That speed is the single most compelling piece of evidence. It tells you that whatever transpired did not meet the very high threshold for criminal prosecution under federal law.
So what was the official outcome?
The official outcome was definitive and binary. The U.S. Attorney's Office determined that, quote, no crime has been committed.
No crime has been committed.
That is the ultimate clearance. It doesn't mean, we couldn't prove it. It means the available evidence did not support a criminal charge, period.
And the FBI followed that up with their own closure statement, right?
Yes. They confirmed they will not pursue any further investigative actions regarding this matter.
So it's total, complete legal closure.
Case closed. No charges, no fines, no ongoing civil liabilities coming from federal enforcement. It's over.
So how did Williams and her team respond? I mean, they were obviously pleased, but their response was framed to reinforce that initial victim narrative.
Oh, absolutely. Habaki emphasized that Williams was certainly pleased, but importantly not surprised by the news.
Not surprised.
Right. It maintains the stance that the allegations were groundless from the very start.
Let's drill down into the critical distinction that seems to have saved her from federal charges. Habaki stressed that there was, quote, never a physical encounter. And he reiterated that the allegations made by the unhinged passenger were blatantly false from the beginning. Why is never a physical encounter the legal golden ticket here?
Because under that statute we mentioned, 49 U.S.C. Section 46504, while you can interfere with a flight crew verbally.
Right.
The most serious felony charges, the ones that lead to immediate arrest and prosecution, they usually require the element of physical assault.
Or intimidation or violence.
Exactly. When the U.S. Attorney's Office reviews an air rage incident, they look for specific intent to intimidate or injure or actual physical contact. So even if the argument was loud, maybe heated, involved some harsh language.
Yeah.
If Porsha didn't put her hands on the other person and the other person didn't put their hands on her, and if the crew maintained control,
then it stays below that severe criminal threshold. It's just bad behavior at that point, not a federal crime.
Correct. A heated verbal altercation is a terrible way to behave in first class, and, Delta might still ban you from flying with them.
Sure, they have their own rules.
But it's not typically a federal felony, not unless the verbal hostility rises to the level of a genuine threat, or more typically if the passenger refuses repeated commands from the flight crew.
And actively resists them.
The fact that the flight landed without issue suggests the crew's intervention was successful.
And therefore, Their ability to perform their duties was only temporarily, not criminally, impaired.
You've got it. That's the logic.
That distinction, the line between just bad passenger behavior and a federal crime, is so crucial for the learner to grasp here.
It is.
It's the difference between receiving a stern warning and facing, 10 years in prison.
Precisely. The system is designed to prosecute behavior that endangers the aircraft or its operation. A successful de-escalation by the crew, combined with the lack of physical contact, likely proved that the operation wasn't criminally endangered.
Okay, now let's talk about the aggressive defense posture that followed the clearance. Habaki didn't just accept the clearance and go home.
No, he went on the offense.
Why?
This moves squarely into the realm of reputation management. Habaki asserted that Porsha is owed an apology by the passenger over the alleged incident.
That's a powerful move.
It is, because it attempts to re-victimize the accuser by maintaining confidence that the other passenger, not Williams, should have been charged.
He's basically implying that the accuser committed a different type of crime.
He's subtly implying that, that the accuser filed a false report that triggered a costly and unnecessary federal investigation.
It's a complete narrative reversal.
Yeah.
Instead of Porsha being the one who caused the trouble, she's now the celebrity victim whose private flight was ruined by an unhinged individual who then fabricated charges against her.
It's masterful public relations executed with legal backing. They leveraged the speed of the clearance to definitively shut down any lingering media doubt.
So the key takeaway here for us, for the learner, regarding the system itself is what?
The absolute necessity of the process. This entire episode just confirms the rigorous required process for any potential offense on a U.S. aircraft. It confirms that the federal system, even when it's dealing with a high-profile figure, operates quickly and impartially to determine if that specific high-bar threshold for federal criminal intent or action occurred.
And in this case, it didn't.
In this case, the legal consensus was that, however unpleasant the dispute might have been, no criminal element was present.
Now that we've firmly established the legal clearance, we have to pivot. The legal case is wrapped, but the public relations fallout is just beginning. We need to talk about the context of why Porsha Williams was even traveling. So, Section 4. Celebrity context, BravoCon, and public scrutiny.
The backdrop is everything. You cannot understand this without understanding BravoCon. She was returning from BravoCon 2025 in Las Vegas.
This is not a typical business trip.
Not even close. BravoCon is an intense, multi-day, high-energy environment where thousands of devoted fans descend on a city to interact with their favorite, and sometimes their least favorite, reality TV personalities.
It's an environment of constant performance. These stars are on duty 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
They're interacting, they're drinking, they're staying up late, they're constantly monitoring their public image for 3 straight days. The flight back to Atlanta is the decompression period.
It's the exhale.
It's the exhale. It's a period when defenses are naturally low and fatigue is peaking. That makes it an environment ripe for friction.
Absolutely. And think about the professional demands placed on her that weekend. The sources specifically mention her active participation. She appeared on a panel for a show called Getting Lucky at the Love Hotel.
Right. She was sharing the stage with Sonja Morgan and Heather Gay, 2 other major personalities in their own right.
Yeah.
And the panel itself, given the title, it suggests a lighthearted, maybe slightly provocative tone.
Right. And this wasn't just a quick meet and greet. They were discussing serious professional possibilities for the future. The source mentions all 3 stars were amenable to the idea of starring on a spin-off.
Should a second season get ordered?
Exactly. So this means she is negotiating, she is performing, she is managing her brand under extreme pressure immediately before she steps onto that plane.
So she's moving directly from a stage where she is performing the role of the engaging, witty, professional reality star to a cramped first-class cabin surrounded by people who may have just paid hundreds or thousands of dollars to see her. It's an immediate, jarring transition.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The constant connection to reality television dramatically impacts how any dispute is viewed.
How so?
The nature of this job blurs the line between public persona and private conduct, maybe more than any other profession. Porsha Williams doesn't get to just be Porsha the tired passenger.
No.
She is Porsha Williams, the Real Housewife. And any verbal altercation, especially one immediately after a high-energy fan event like BravoCon, it gets magnified tenfold.
It's because the public feels entitled to observe.
They feel entitled to observe and judge her every single action.
Let me push back a little on her attorney's statement about the unhinged passenger.
Okay.
While we accept the legal clearance, isn't it possible the passenger wasn't unhinged, but simply a highly excited or maybe disappointed fan?
Go on.
Someone who felt they had special access to Porsha after a weekend immersed in Bravo culture. This expectation of access could be the very thing that led to the friction.
That's a crucial point. That is a really, really good point. The intense atmosphere of BravoCon fosters a sense of parasocial intimacy.
Parasocial intimacy.
Fans feel they know these stars. They feel like they're friends. So if that alleged unhinged passenger tried to engage Porsha in a way she deemed inappropriate,
Like maybe discussing her recent divorce or trying to film her on the plane.
exactly, it's very easy for a confrontation to ignite and for that passenger to then interpret Williams' necessary boundary setting as an altercation.
So the incident then ceases to be about bad behavior and becomes a collision between the pressures of fame and the reality of post-performance fatigue.
That's a perfect summary. The pressure on her to maintain composure is exponentially higher than it is for you or me. Her brand is her product.
Right.
And any perceived loss of control in public, even if it's legally benign, is an operational liability for that brand.
Let's delve deeper into that public identity in Section 5. Porsha Williams, a hopeless romantic in the public eye. Her recent personal history is not just background noise here.
Oh no, it is the amplifier for the scrutiny she faced.
It's the context for everything.
It really is. Her personal life has been headline news for years, but the recent details are just overwhelming. We have to start with the finalization of her divorce from Simon Guobadia.
Which happened recently in June of this year.
Right. And the timing of this divorce finalizing and the events that followed, it is a critical layer of stress.
What happened?
So the divorce finalized in June, but in that very same month, Guobadia was deported to Nigeria by Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Wait, let's stop there. That is not just a standard celebrity divorce.
Not at all.
That is a high-profile divorce coinciding with a federal deportation action against her ex-husband. The stress, the media intrusion, the legal complexity, it must have been immense.
It places her under extraordinary personal duress even before she steps on a BravoCon stage.
Of course.
The sheer volume of public interest and the emotional weight of handling a divorce tied to a major federal action like deportation. It creates a narrative where the public is actively scrutinizing her every move.
Looking for signs of weakness.
Signs of weakness, stress, or a possible return to the volatile behavior that's sometimes seen on reality TV.
And we have to remember her history, too. This isn't her first public marriage.
No, she was previously married to NFL alum Cordell Stewart from 2011 until 2013, so her relationships have always been publicly consumed material.
So if you're already in this state of high public visibility and personal turmoil, a verbal spat on a plane that might otherwise be forgotten suddenly gets attached to this highly volatile current narrative about your life.
Precisely. It gives the media a ready-made frame. Stressed, newly divorced reality star snaps on flight.
And that is far more compelling and far more damaging.
Then exhausted passenger has an argument.
Right. But she has countered this intense personal upheaval with, I think, remarkable public transparency.
She has.
Especially about her current dating life and these new revelations.
Yes. While appearing at CultureCon in New York City last month, she proactively discussed her dating status. And I think this transparency is likely a deliberate strategy.
To shift the narrative.
To shift the narrative away from her past turmoil and toward her hopeful future. And the most surprising nugget was her revelation that she had tried dating women.
And she's already narrowing down her prospects, which is a very public declaration of moving forward.
Very public. She told the audience she has narrowed it down to 2 people she is talking to.
Yeah.
And her description was just beautifully simple and relatable.
What did she say?
She said, he is nice and she is nice.
I like that.
It puts a human face on her current state and moves away from the complicated legal drama of her past.
And this all feeds directly into her established, marketable public persona.
She actively leans into that brand identity. She identifies herself as a lover girl.
A hopeless romantic.
A hopeless romantic.
Yeah.
This persona is what keeps her viable in the reality TV landscape. It shows vulnerability and it shows hope.
And that vulnerability is why she's publicly considering returning to dating on TV.
Yes.
She explicitly said she would be open to appearing on a show to find a good partner, noting, I just got divorced.
This is the ultimate synthesis of her public image and her current life, right? Using her professional platform to navigate her personal desire for love.
Therefore, the analysis of the timing is just crystal clear. The alleged flight incident happened while her entire personal life, the divorce, the deportation, her exploration of new dating scenarios, was already the focus of intense media consumption.
Yes.
This constant visibility just intensified the scrutiny on her behavior on that flight to an almost unbearable degree.
It creates a legal irony.
How so?
The federal system worked perfectly. It was efficient, it was quick, and it cleared her of criminal wrongdoing. But the public perception machine, which is fueled by the highly charged context of her personal life,
I moved far faster.
it moves far faster, and it is far, far harder to clear.
We've reached section 6, outro, synthesis, and provocative thought. Let's try to bring together the procedural rigor and the celebrity chaos.
Okay. We began this deep dive with a lurid headline about an alleged mid-air altercation, and we traced it all the way through the federal system, landing firmly on the legal conclusion from the U.S. Attorney's Office: no crime committed.
The sources gave us a really privileged look at that mandatory escalation, how a simple crew intervention triggers a full FBI review under federal jurisdiction.
The threat of prosecution for interfering with flight crew.
Exactly. And we saw how the defense's precise use of terminology, that insistence on no physical encounter, was absolutely key to keeping the incident below the criminal felony threshold.
And we also layered in the massive cultural context, the pressure cooker of BravoCon, and the extreme personal turmoil of her highly public, complicated life, which just amplified the scrutiny on her flight behavior.
So what does this entire process mean for you, the learner, regarding how fame interacts with the law?
I think it highlights a really unique challenge that's faced by highly visible figures, especially when they're operating in a federally regulated space like an airplane. For Porsha Williams, any dispute, regardless of its origin or its ultimate legal finding, is immediately elevated. A verbal argument that would be a non-story for an ordinary passenger becomes a mandatory, high-speed federal investigative matter.
Which carries immense reputational risk.
Immense. Even when the investigation ultimately exonerates her. The system itself is impartial, but the media coverage is not.
The clearance is the official end of the legal process. The FBI closes the file.
But the public memory doesn't close the file nearly so fast.
Not at all.
Exactly. And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to carry forward, because this really transcends Porsha Williams. This applies to every celebrity headline you read.
Okay, let's hear it.
Considering Williams' attorney stated explicitly that the allegations against her were blatantly false,
Right.
that eyewitness accounts contradicted the accuser's story, and that the federal investigation resulted in a definitive finding of no crime committed.
Yeah.
We have to ask a fundamental question about the relationship between justice and fame.
The question is this. When federal authorities investigate thoroughly and decide no crime was committed, thereby issuing a complete and official clearance,
A formal legal exoneration.
does that formal legal exoneration fully and completely restore a celebrity's reputation? Or is the existence of the public allegation itself, the fact that the incident was reported, investigated, and consumed by millions of people?
Is that the lasting, permanent damage?
Does it forever color their public image?
Is the acquittal enough to erase the spectacle?
Or is the mere necessity of an FBI investigation the true, irreversible penalty of celebrity? Something to mull over when you consider the price of being a hopeless romantic in the public eye.
Indeed. And with that, we conclude today's deep dive.